Hello and welcome to Grey Hat Beard Princess, the modern workplace podcast. We talk about Microsoft 365. We're into part 2 of show 51. If you haven't listened to part 1, go back and listen. We talk about all the amazing news and events happening. We covered a bit about sustainability. We covered about architecture with Power Platform. We talked about shared channels and how the kind of cynical old white men are kind of like, well, they should be good, and how everyone else is really excited about them. But go back and give that a listen in your show feeds, or check it out on YouTube, because here we are in part 2, and we're joined again by Sara Fennah, and we're going to be talking about learning, training and certification for the Microsoft Cloud. So I think we've got a few subjects to go through, but as someone, I know we talked about this in the last show, that I finally got my first certification. And I think, Louise, you're on, was it 1 or 2?
No, it's so the MS600 was my first one. I'm currently working on the AZ204.
That's right. So we've got 2 people here kind of newish to the certification world. Why should we bother getting more certifications, Sarah?
Well, you need more than me. No.
And for those who can't see the video, there is, what was it, 48, did you say, certificates?
I have 48 Microsoft certifications currently, yes.
Your wallpaper
keeping
is
IKEA
just
photo
different.
frames in business.
Yeah, this is real. This is my real background. No, we don't need a certificate to prove that we know a subject. I believe that. I like them, but the thing is, a lot of people are out in the marketplace doing these jobs, doing the jobs we're doing, and it's a good way to differentiate yourself and your skills and give you an extra backing to really prove that you do have the knowledge. They're not the easiest things in the world to achieve. I mean, it might look like it, but once you get into taking the certifications, yes, they do become easier. There is a skill to them, but it's partly about giving yourself that and giving your customers that confidence, that evidence to underpin your knowledge. So you don't need one in everything. As a trainer, I need the certificate for what I teach. Yeah, it's a requirement. I can't teach it if I haven't passed the exam. But
which is quite good to know for people taking these courses as well.
Yeah, but obviously not everyone needs them. But I do think it's such a new field still, the cloud, that proving those skills and having people with a breadth of different certifications within your team, you don't have to have everyone have everything, does give a certain depth of knowledge and a certain evidence of depth of knowledge as well. And I learn something every time I take an exam.
And I think that's key. I always remember, Al, back in the days before you deserted us, that always when you used to talk about certification, one of the things you said was when you cover those exams, there's always those bits you don't know, which you could risk it and just go ahead and go, well, let's hope those questions don't come up. But and actually, it gives you that excuse, that reason to dig that little bit wider on there. And I know, having come from a SharePoint background, there's no real pure SharePoint or pure just Teams collaboration oriented exam. So you're always going to have to do a bit of device management, the choice of Intune and other elements like that, if you want to go up those stacks and things from there.
Joy.
Sorry, I'm not a native speaker. Can you explain?
But I think you're absolutely right, Kev. You there's so much that you always learn. You always learn when you're doing these certifications. They're really quite good now. I've always had quite a few of them, as you know. I used to try and lead by example by taking a fair few of them, whilst trying to coerce you into taking them, because as a partner,
coerce, that was the word. Okay.
We needed to have certifications to get the competencies to prove at an organizational level that we had the capabilities and the knowledge. But it was always an interesting choice to say, as part of your day job, you need to have certain certifications, but also, what are you interested in? because the two have to go hand in hand. They're not just, a tick box for saying, actually, I can do this. They're actually a really powerful tool to say, I actually want to move in this direction, and look, I've put some effort in, and I can demonstrate that I've actually, committed to this direction and got some certifications,
and with some structure around it.
With some structure, yeah. I think there's, you always learn, and some of them are just, they're just quite interesting. Some of them you kind of do with your eyes closed because they're what you do day in, day out. But actually, a nice blend is, well, what am I interested in? What direction do I think I want to be working in 2 or 3 years' time? Gives you the ability to actually, guide your own course to a certain extent.
Yeah, totally. So I feel like there is no one way to grow into this field, and we all just have super different backgrounds usually. Yep. So I see a lot of people with lots of super different backgrounds in our filter bubble, and I feel if you get those exams done and if you learn constantly, of course you can prove that. So yes, I have a background as XYZ, but I prove that I have certain knowledge in and it's standardized, and it's institutionalized, and I can prove this, and I think this makes it easier for customers as well to just draw a comparison and see, hey, how does this person fit into the landscape. And also, of course, it challenges yourself, because I can never repeat what I did last year. So I'm just constantly on the hunt to just do something else, because I easily get bored. And so could be that this is not the nicest trait, but at least I know this. So I need to do something else. And then, of course, this comes into place what I already said, just look into where are you now, and what do you want to do in a few years, and then
or a few months.
A few months, because yes, tech is ever changing, and
absolutely.
Tomorrow, yeah.
I mean, but this is the thing, isn't it? It is constantly changing, and the exams are staying up to date. We have to renew them every year now.
Yes.
Not loving that, I have to say, having taken one today and gone, oh yeah, they've added new stuff to the syllabus for this one since I last did it. But I think this is part of the challenge, is that it's an opportunity for us to learn new stuff, stay on top of stuff, and it just gives it does mean that LinkedIn is a little sort of drowned by people with certifications, but from a personal perspective,
it's just Sarah.
That's it, isn't it?
Yeah, she is just badass. Let's phrase it. She is just super badass, and we will never reach that level, but that's okay.
It was that 100%.
I mean, we need to have rockstars like her among us, right?
Yeah. But I think the other thing is, when I was working with Kev and Gary at CPS, and it was a consultancy, there was a particular need. But actually, in Microsoft, I have certain certifications that I have to do every year and make sure that I keep those up to date, because it's part of the job spec. So it's mandatory training. And I think a lot of organizations, are looking at it that way as well now, to say, actually, it is part of the skills that you actually need to be able to deliver your role. So depending on, I guess, the size of the company and the type of company, it is something that a lot of people are measured on. I always used to try and measure people as well and go, you need to do these certifications, and that never always worked. But
I don't know what you mean.
I mean, we probably all know this. Customer asks you, "Hey, can you do XYZ?" And you have no clue at all. Just you know nothing about it, and then you're just sure. When do you want to start?
Yeah.
Bluffing, just
it depends when you want to start.
Put on that Lady Gaga poker face, just be cool as fuck while saying this. And if you manage to convince them, then of course you have just such a good motivation to learn. This is incredible, because that feeling of guilt is just driving you nuts. And then you just do all-nighters, and yes, you will be amazingly good. And it's just don't tell my customers.
and that's one of the great things. I've done that. I'll be honest. I've said yes to something and learnt it. That's one of the great things about these Microsoft the official Microsoft courses, you have to have passed the appropriate exam to teach them.
Yeah.
And I must admit, every time I take these exams and I pass one, and I then go on to train the course, I learn more as I practice to deliver the course as well. Because the ultimate way you know something is to explain it to somebody else.
Yep.
If you can explain it, you really know it.
So much this, because so if I'm able to explain something to someone, I will think about, so who is this as a person and what's their background? So I would just like try to find images and metaphors that apply to them. And this means that I will think differently about the stuff that I already thought, that I already understood this. And this just like, it just like connects dots in my brain just like totally differently than I thought. And then just like, did I just say that? So I was smart explaining it like that. And this just like creates, so I think learning and teaching, this is just like a circle. And this is, you need to teach in order to learn.
And it's when you get asked, to be able to answer questions, you need to be able to apply it. And I think that's the other thing about a lot of this is, you could just do the certifications for the sake of it, but it's actually how you apply it and how you actually make it come to life when you explain it back that's actually the really valuable thing.
And that's why I've passed 48 certifications. I don't train 48 different courses. Okay, I personally will only train a subject that I feel I know really deeply. So last week we talked about Power Platform. I've passed the Power Platform Fundamentals exam. Will I train it? No, because I don't feel I have that depth of knowledge and the background behind it. I've passed the Azure Fundamentals exam. Will I train it? Not. Never. No way. Jose, not going near it.
Never say never. just
Oh, you're muted, Kev.
You're covering two of my favourite areas there.
I was going to say this so badly today because I haven't worked the entire day, which means I haven't said it today. That someone is on mute.
I mean, I started with Microsoft Office. I started off teaching German in secondary schools. Realised I didn't like classrooms full of children.
So you went into IT. I didn't know.
Believe me,
even a classroom full of IT people are struggling to beat a classroom full of 13-year-old girls.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
Mm-hmm. We'll just leave that there and move on. So yeah, I moved from being really technically almost illiterate to working in an IT company and supporting fresh IT graduates to use the computer. That emailing and writing documents was a challenge. I had to learn to help them.
It still is for some.
I would say it is for most. Just like the amount of people that I just like watch using Word not like it wants to be used. The amount of people who can't handle their Outlook clients correctly. Yeah, they can send an email. This does not mean that they are just like anyhow just like good in using Outlook. It is just it baffles me because they're using this for 20 years and no one taught them because we don't have budget, we don't have time. This is not important enough. Everyone can write an email. Yeah, so exactly. I just like, so I really like what you do, Sarah. Yeah, I really like it.
Well, I love it. I mean, the best feeling in the world is when you leave a training course and someone says, it makes sense now. Yeah. That light bulb moment, it's just the best feeling in the world. I got
goosebumps right now as you said this.
But that's why I love training. Yes, I could do more consultancy. Yes, I've got the skills, the qualifications, but I love that moment when you're training people and you see people a year later on a different course and they say, that course I went on, that saves me 10 minutes every day. Yes, thank you. It's real validation of what we do.
And so one thing, Sarah, because obviously for you to be able to teach the course, you've got to learn it. But then you're teaching people to sort of sit down in a classroom, whether it's virtual or in person. I mean, how do you talk to people about how they should learn? Because I think most of us on here have probably had enough that we'll go through and work our way through the training materials ourselves. But there are other people who like to come in and have that guide on there. What do you say to people as to which one to do when?
I think it really depends on you as a personality and what opportunities are available for you. And I personally don't tend to get the opportunity to go on training courses, which is why I love going to conferences so much. And I know that sounds really backwards, really, because I'm freelance, because I am my own boss. It's quite difficult to justify.
You just never sign it off for yourself.
The cost, because it costs me double.
Yeah.
And it's the scheduling and fitting that in with other trainers who are available in the gaps I've got in my schedule, what I promised my customers.
Could you handle going through a training course, or would it not drive you crazy?
No, it wouldn't. I love going on training courses. I love soaking up that knowledge from other people, because it's not just the information, it's also their experiences, their interpretation of the explanation, the way they present the topic as well. So every time I've had the opportunity, it's been a really valuable experience for me from that perspective. If you've got a good trainer. Unfortunately, not all training courses have good trainers.
That's one of the, I guess that's, how do you handle it with the certifications versus the exams, Sarah? For, when somebody is maybe got, they want to achieve a certification, there may be more than one exam involved in that. And so for each of the courses, the training courses for each exam could be quite substantial in terms of the time. How do you kind of manage that in terms of the expectation of time commitment?
Yeah, it's a big commitment to do these, these associate level, the admin level certifications. They are quite large, and it's not just the training course time scale that you need to commit. Everyone learns differently. Some people can go on a course, suck it up, regurgitate it in an exam and pass and be fine, and then it's the 4 or 5 days done and off. Mm-hmm. Most people, you're going to need to put in a bit of time before and a bit of time after to practice, to review. So realistically, you're looking at least double the time scale that the course takes if you're going to do it well. But if that certification means something to you, then you're going to put in the effort. But that's also why I'm saying it depends on how you learn. It's that mix of modalities. It's that mix of sources of information. Louise, you were saying you get bored really quickly.
Yeah, and distracted very easily.
Yeah, and that's why a training course might not suit your personality the best. You might be better suited to doing your self-study with a bit of maybe bite-size courses, maybe a mentor to work with to help you through the things that you're struggling with. And that flexibility has become really more obvious as we've gone through COVID period, that we need that way of learning. The traditional sit down in a classroom is probably more challenging than it ever was. But it's still got a lot of value to it. But we do need, as trainers, to be a bit more imaginative as to how we bring the information across. I'm always more tired.
Trying to keep people engaged with those remote elements and things like that, when you can get distracted by other things. I know everyone has phones these days, but trying to reduce the amount of distraction that's there, or at least allowing a certain amount to know that they're still focusing. It's quite important. And thinking about focusing, one of the things I was going to say about the in-person training course is having that dedicated time to actually do it. I've never been, for me personally, I've never found that those sit-in trainings are quite as helpful, because I want to be able to jump to different things. But having that dedicated time to sit and fiddle with that, I used to hate it when the training course would turn off the internet, because usually I'd listen to a bit and I'd kind of be half listening and then I kind of explored down another path by browsing through things, because I wasn't getting distracted by all these different kind of Teams messages and people chasing you down on other things, or the kids shouting on there. You've got that dedicated bit of focus. You block that time out to get that done, which I know you can block out times, or even I know some people take time off to be able to go through that training and things, but just to be able to put it all to one side and sit on that dedicated course really helps at times, definitely.
And then I think it comes down to our corporate culture as well. So if my organization encourages me to just like continuously learn and continuously improve, just like always be learning, then they will give me time to do that. So then I will not just like have over and over and over time, just like for having unproductive meetings and answering too many messages and just like triaging all that stuff that constantly it's just like being there, and then I need to dive through that. Let's say like that, if you're just like, if you need to make time because there seems to be no time to learn, then this is a matter of the organization. This is not anymore your personal problem. And then it's a matter that the organization solves this and encourages their employees to learn, but also to make time for that. So can't stress this enough that this is a really an organizational problem, and it's not an individual problem anymore. And I feel like having uninterrupted time to learn is such a super valuable asset. And I think we see the very same thing with all of these virtual conferences. Just I could make time for that, but actually there are just like so many unread emails and just like so many messages in Teams that are just like waiting for me. And then this is just like, we have the attention span of a goldfish. It's just like, so it's.
But that attention span, I find that attention span is, I'm going to go learn that. I'm an hour into that, right? I've got that actually looks more interesting over there. I'm going to go and learn that. And sometimes it's just sometimes it's just, well, what do I actually want to dedicate my time to learn? And a certification is something where you set that out. You go, right, I'm going to plan 3 months to actually put the time in, so that my hour a day, my 2 hours a week, whatever I'm doing, is coordinated. And that sometimes takes discipline. If you're working on different things and you're going, well, I'm working on the Power Platform this week, and I'm working on security and compliance next week, and I'm working on communications this week, and you need some discipline sometimes just to get through that journey. And actually doing a training course can actually just kind of go, we're ring fencing that time. Exactly as you say, Louise, the conference, the virtual conference versus in person, it's the ability to ring fence that time and go, me and my organization have both made an agreement that I'm going to spend this time doing this one thing. Therefore, they should understand that I'm not going to be distracted by emails and Teams and WhatsApp and anything else that might be in use.
Yeah, totally.
And also the structure of that course guides you through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's one of the benefits of the courses. And especially when we get to the more advanced level courses, the more in depth, we need that tour guide almost to navigate us through the mass of information. We've talked about it today, but as a trainer, it's also it's not just guiding you through, it's taking you on a sensible path through that topic to take you from I know nothing to I'm an expert.
Yeah, and I feel like
I know about this area, but not about all of these other areas that are also on the syllabus for the exam.
Yeah, and most likely the thing that you want to learning is not linear, which means it is just like not, you just need to follow these 10 super simple steps and then you just like reach your goal. It is just like, so I will briefly touch this here because we need this to take into consideration, but I can't explain the entire concept because you do not understand enough to understand the entire concept. So we'll come back to this later. And to show how this works and to facilitate this, if someone manages to do this very well, that makes an excellent teacher and an excellent trainer.
If it was a straight road, we'd all be able to follow it without a guide. It's a really wiggledy, higgledy, piggledy, mixed up route that you need to zigzag your way up and down, backwards and forwards through to get that knowledge.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, Sarah, and I wish I had thought of this question to give you a little bit more time to prepare at the beginning of this, but you've got your 48 certifications, and you do an awful lot of different courses. You must meet a lot of different people, a lot of different types of people. What's been the funniest thing that's happened to you while giving a training course?
Well, the funniest one that happened in the last 2 years is your typical virtual meeting one. I had a course attendee who told me they weren't switching their camera on because they were working from home today and they were a naturist. Unfortunately, at one point during the day, they managed to accidentally switch their camera on, stand up and walk out of the room.
Oh dear.
Were
you recording it? Yeah.
And did it throw you? Did you manage to carry on the course at that point?
Nothing that you will not experience if you work as a consultant or a trainer. Nothing. It is.
Whether it threw me or not, it did and it didn't. Fortunately, my delegates were currently in the middle of a lab, so they were working in their own virtual environment. So I don't think anyone else actually spotted it either. No one said anything. So it threw me a little bit. Fortunately, I remembered how to turn them into an attendee and switch their camera off in Teams before they walked back into the room.
So that training is helpful, definitely.
And then you drop that little nugget of information. And just in case anybody is interested, when you're hosting a meeting in Teams, this is how you actually turn somebody's camera off.
I must admit, I have used that scenario to illustrate the difference between a presenter and an attendee role in a Teams meeting once or twice since, yes.
Yeah. Flasher, presenter, attendee.
You're gonna remember that, right? And I think when you go back to the learning element, for me, it's I think with it when you're doing a course, right? It's something that is distinct. You're not just watching a video in between a meeting or whatever, which could be, you could forget it in 2 minutes. But an actual course, you're sitting down, you remember those kind of moments, and you go, yeah, because I remember that. So these kind of stories and these things that happen. Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, the naturist, and oh yeah, now I can move a presenter back to an attendee.
Yes.
There's the logical jump, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I hope he wasn't jumping. That's not,
it was bad enough without. Okay.
I'll never forget once, it wasn't a training course but a meeting, and one of the boss's wife, he was in the spare room and she had to crawl past to go and get her tops, so she's doing her bra and pants crawling past, and he's carrying on talking behind him trying to get her to go lower. It's like, on the camera, trying not to say nothing. Then she crawled back again as well. It was just like, and we all went quiet until she went off screen, and someone just went, yeah, Duncan, we did see that. always priceless. Well, I think it's probably about time to wrap up there. I guess, Sarah, what have you got plans for the next few weeks? I know you're speaking at Collab Days, but have you got some big courses coming up?
I've got quite a lot of courses coming up. In fact, my schedule is pretty much full through March, April, May, and June.
Nice.
So
I hope you've left time for Scottish Summit and Comsverse in June.
Yeah, no, those are booked out. I've also got an MCT in-person summit in June. In person, yes. There's lots going on this year, but yeah, I'm going to be spending my life talking to people about Microsoft 365 and trying to make them as enthusiastic as I am.
Absolutely.
Sounds like what I do a lot of the time.
Absolutely.
It's fun.
I think that passion is important, and it's why we all do what we do, because we love doing it, and actually sharing it is so much of the fun from it. It's certainly your comment about people sort of coming away and feeling I've really got something I can take away. Absolutely agree. It's what I love about consultancy, is seeing people change what they do based on the things you've recommended. Absolutely love that thing. So fantastic. Thank you very much. I hope everyone has learned things there. If not, do check out, we'll put links to Sarah's profiles into the show notes. So if you've got some questions or want to book some courses, or I've heard that Sarah particularly likes naturist training camps. They go down very
on the Zero Power platform.
Yes, Power Platform and Azure and naturist all combined would be my ideal course. Thanks very much.
I love it.
If anyone wants to drop that as a fake note to Sarah, just to show you listening, that will make us all laugh on there. But thank you very much for joining us today. It was much appreciated. We will be back next week with the latest news and another guest I think we have lined up for next week. He pauses thinking, I can't remember if I had got that booked in or not, but we'll chase them down in a minute. So we have got a few guests lined up coming up soon, talking on different subjects. Hopefully you'll listen to this before Wednesday the 23rd. No, you won't be listening to this one. That would have been the last episode, just realised. But do check out the Scottish Summit and Commsverse, because lots of us will be speaking there. So please.
Teams Nation.
Otherwise, thank you very much, and we will see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Grey Hat Beard Podcast. The song Drink Up My Mateys was brought to you by Black Bones under a non-commercial attribution license.